Hello and welcome to Region Weather Live, your YouTube source for weather across the Dakotas and Minnesota. I am meteorologist Brad Warner, and well, we might just have one more day of talking about some strong to maybe severe weather across northern parts of North Dakota for Monday. It's kind of iffy, but there's the slight possibility. And basically, here's the setup that's going on. We've got this low pressure system that continues to move onshore in the western parts of the United States. And what that's going to do is that digs in is create this dome of high pressure over us. So really going to get warm here on Monday. You can see that ridge developing over us as this continues to dig in. Now we also have this trough digging in through the Canadian West, and these two are going to kind of connect up with each other. And as they do, as this ridge continues to build because of this system down here, and this trough moves to the southeast, we get this jet streak that wants to develop right along the North Dakota and Canadian border. And so that's going to be kind of the focus. It looks like right now more of the focus will be into Canada, but it's possible that some of those storms could just kind of leak into North Dakota. And so as we take a look at Monday's high temperatures, we've got 90s, 80s and 90s across South Dakota, maybe mid 90s in some areas of South Dakota as well. Mid to upper 80s across North Dakota, maybe a 90-degree reading. But there's that dividing line. There's that jet stream that kind of moves right over the North Dakota and Canadian border. And that becomes that dividing line essentially between the cooler air to the north and then the hot air a little bit further to the south. Now those dew points throughout the day are going to increase and basically pool up again right along that border. But we've got some, 60s pushing up all the way into the northern parts of North Dakota, northern Minnesota. So some humidity also pushing northward along that jet stream as well. So if we take a look at how the surface is basically reacting to this, we've got this area of low pressure that just scoots along the southern portion of Canada through the day on Monday and in through Tuesday night. Now, as we kind of back this up a little bit and we draw this in, we've got a trailing cold front behind it. And that's really going to be cooling things off for Tuesday. You can see as we get to later in the day, Tuesday afternoon, this is right around noontime. That cold front is now sagging through central parts of Minnesota and down through South Dakota. So Tuesday is going to be a little bit cooler up in the north. Still some warm temperatures, probably some record-breaking temperatures still down into southern portions of South Dakota, maybe southwest Minnesota as well, just because that cold front will not make it through all the way into southern South Dakota until late in the day Tuesday. But it was definitely a change coming starting Tuesday and then region-wide for Wednesday. But that's going to be the setup, or that's going to help also set up the possibility for some thunderstorms. Now here are those CAPE values for Monday, and you can see how those CAPE values just start to shoot northward throughout the day on Monday. And again, some good little pooling area, maybe down in or up in northern parts, north central, northeastern parts of North Dakota later in the afternoon. This is kind of after 4 p.m. or so. By the time they really get some good pooling of moisture and some decent CAPE values up there right before sunset. And then, of course, as the sun sets and the temperature wanes, the CAPE values begin to drop. So here's what we're looking at for the timeline. And we've got some showers and storms maybe developing early in the morning across central portions of North Dakota. And then as we get a little bit later in the morning, this is right around noontime, it looks like coverage wants to increase in northeastern North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota. But then possibly later in the afternoon, some of these cells a little bit further to the back, probably around 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and then possibly lingering into the very early evening hours before they run northward and into Canada. So this is according to the HRRR model, kind of the convective model that, as I've said kind of recently, it's outperformed the NAM 3 kilometer when it's come to these storms, it seems like lately. So that's kind of the timing, sort of. It looks like by early to mid-afternoon, some of these storms could already be developing and then kind of lingering into the late afternoon hours, according to this model. Now we look at the NAM 3 kilometer, about the same thing. We get some storms develop into central parts of North Dakota early in the morning around 6, 7 a.m. Roughly about the same timing. You know, we've got those storms move to the northeast in the early parts of the afternoon. Maybe a few storms develop a little bit further back around 2 p.m. or so, and those continue to carry north and eastward throughout the remainder afternoon and into the evening, and eventually move off into Canada. So, and then that's really about it. Most of the storms then remain north of Canada. We have the possibility of maybe some storms developing down on southeastern parts of Minnesota overnight Monday night into early Tuesday morning, but all we're really looking at there is probably just some heavy rains. Now, something I'm not quite sure on just yet is sort of the setup maybe for Tuesday in southeastern parts of Minnesota. We've got the possibility, some high dew points beginning to develop down in the southeastern part of the state, as you see, pooling up over 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's a big soupy mess down there for your Tuesday. And as I've said before on Tuesday, that cold front doesn't make it quite all the way south through our region. So look at this, forecasted highs possibly for Tuesday near the triple digits in southeastern parts of South Dakota, maybe even southwestern Minnesota as well. So we've got the dew points, we've got the hot temperatures, and we've got the cold front moving through. So of course you would expect the Cape values to essentially just be going through the roof. And here we are on Tuesday afternoon, and we've got over 4,000 joules per kilogram. That's a lot of Cape down there. That would provide enough juice for some explosive thunderstorms down in southeastern parts of Minnesota for Tuesday. All right, so you're going, so what's the problem? What's the problem? What are you talking about here? Why you've got all this, everything's right at the surface. You got a cold front, you've got hot air, you've got juicy dew points, high humidity. Well, we take a look at the sort of the mid and lower levels here, and it might just wind up being too warm still. So the cold front Tuesday afternoon, later in the afternoon, is sort of sits down in through here, but the upper level cold front sits a little bit further back. It's kind of in through there at that point, late in the afternoon around 3 or 4 p.m. So the problem is the temperatures might be too warm. We're looking at 700 millibars, so just about 10,000 feet in the air, around 10 to 11 degrees Celsius. And usually once you get to that 10 degrees Celsius mark, that's when you start talking about maybe the possibility of too strong of a cap on top. And while we have all that moisture down at the surface, here at the lower and mid levels, not much going on. It's very, very dry here at 10,000 feet where that cap is. You know, dew points are really low as you go up higher into the atmosphere. So we take a look at our sounding here and look at how dry it is. This is the difference. The red line is the temperature. The green line is the dew point. That's a pretty good spread in between those two numbers. So it's pretty dry in between, you know, as you go up through the layers. But not only that, as you go up through the layers, you've got this little bit of a warm intrusion here that doesn't allow the storms to rise to really build up. So that's where we call that cap that holds the thunderstorms down. Now, of course, the more aggressive NAM 3 kilometer model does develop thunderstorms late in the afternoon Tuesday. That would be severe, obviously, if they do develop and then push into Wisconsin through the overnight hours. But the HRRR model does not. There's nothing. It doesn't have anything there. So that's why when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking it might just be too warm down there. Everything's right down on the surface, but unfortunately it might not be there anywhere else. So it's a little bit of a toss up still for Tuesday. We'll take another look at it again on Monday just to see if things are changing. But as it would look right now, I would say probably the chances are slim to see any severe weather down there. Then beyond that, as we get to Wednesday and Thursday, a big old high pressure settles in for a few days. And then as we get into Thursday night and Friday, we've got a little bit of return in the moisture, but it's still going to be pretty cool. The dew points aren't going to be very high. So whatever we do get is more or less going to be rain, maybe a few spotty thunderstorms through the day on Friday and possibly into portions of Saturday morning as well. That's kind of the extended outlook through the remainder of the week. But really, Monday, northern North Dakota, maybe Tuesday, southeastern Minnesota, and then that's about it for who knows how long, at least when it comes to severe weather. All right, real quick, here's the expected highs by the National Weather Service for Monday. As I talked, 80s and 90s across South Dakota, 80s across much of North Dakota, and 70s across the remainder of the region. Tuesday, the cool off begins up in the north. As you can see, highs only in the low 60s up in far northwestern parts of North Dakota, and down further to the south right now, they're still saying highs in the 80s to 90s. I kind of think at this point that might get updated. I think or upgraded. I think those numbers are going to go up by the National Weather Service here. And then by Wednesday, everybody's cool. You're looking at highs only in the mid 50s up in the north, in the 60s down in the south. Temperatures Thursday morning, so overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning, look at this, lows in the low to mid 30s possible up in the northeastern parts of Minnesota. So up in the Arrowhead region, it's going to be looking mighty cool Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Thursday highs only going to be in the mid 50s up there in the northeast. Some temperatures starting to rebound down to southwestern parts of South Dakota though on Thursday as we're getting into the highs in the low to mid 70s. Friday, another cool one up north, but we're talking lows in the low 40s, maybe around 40 across portions of the north. Then highs remaining in the mid 50s in the northeast, mid 70s down in the southwest for Friday. So we get to talk about at least one more day about at least a possibility of some strong to maybe a severe storm for Monday. And then we'll see how Tuesday lines up for southeast Minnesota. So we can't just let go just yet. Just not yet. We got to have one or two more days here before maybe, who knows after that. Maybe we'll be talking about other stuff after that. But at this point, we'll keep an eye on it for you. So make sure you subscribe down below, hit the little bell button so that if weather does develop, we'll be on live. We'll be there to watch it for you. And then after this, once the white stuff starts falling, we'll be on live for that too. And you'll also know when I'm going to be dropping a video just like this so you can keep updated with the weather across the Dakotas and Minnesota. All right, for Region Weather Live, I'm meteorologist Brad Winter. Everybody, have a good day.